Hi team, it's Michelle Hemley here and welcome to another episode of Ask Team Hemley TV. And today's question is all about strength training. Is it appropriate to children? I was at my local cafe yesterday and there is a lovely lady there that I often speak to, and she was telling me about her 14-year-old son who'd recently injured himself at school lifting weights. And she said, Michelle, is this appropriate? He's 14. Should he be lifting weights? And I get asked this all the time. Is strength training appropriate to children? Is it appropriate to teenagers when they're growing? And it is a very individualised question. What's right for one person isn't right for another. But what I thought I'd do in today's episodes is give you some recommendations to what I would suggest, and also give you some insights into my time in the industry and what I've seen in regards to children's strength and core strength. So first of all, no matter what age you are, there is a certain continuum you need to move along to get the best out of your strength training. And that is, first you have to have basic mobility in your body, then you have to have the stability, the core strength, and then you can move on to your sport-specific training. What I find a lot of coaches of sports do is they move straight to sport-specific training. They say, no, I coach footballers, we need to do football-specific stuff. Yet their players don't actually have good mobility, they don't have good movement patterns, and they don't have any core stability or any core strength. So then what happens is when they start doing very football-specific plyometrics and strength and weight training, they hurt themselves because they don't have the foundation to add that to. So it doesn't matter what age you are, you need to work first your mobility, your body's movement patterns. Are they ready for you to perform the activity that you want to perform? Then you have to have good stability and general body weight strength to be able to support that. Then you can move on to your sport-specific training. So as far as your mobility and your stability training, I think that's appropriate for any age. So to give you a little bit of insight into what I've seen over the years, I've actually been coaching junior sport for close to 20 years. I started when I was in high school helping out my swimming coach with the junior swim squads, and then I worked in vacation care holiday programs as a sport and exercise science student at university. I did a lot of coaching of netball, basketball, athletics, all sorts of junior teams. And what I found, back in those days, is that the children, as well as being very active and very sporty, they were also very fit and generally strong. So any challenge we threw to them in basketball training, so a plank hold challenge or a push-up challenge, they were pretty good at. And when you look at their environment back then, they were constantly moving and playing around their structured sporting activity, so their structured training times. So at lunchtime, for instance, they'd be playing on the monkey bars, pulling themselves up, doing chin-ups essentially, doing rolling around, handstand competitions, cartwheels, all of that sort of stuff. To get to school, they would ride their bikes, walk, run. It was a bit safer to do in those days, and generally people lived closer to their actual school. So that's what I found back then. When you look to now and the world we live in today, it's a totally different environment. We are very much geared for comfort and for staying still, and unless we need to use energy or we need to move, we generally don't do it. So, with my company Hemley's right now, we deal with hundreds of children. A lot of them are very sporty. They might be doing vigorous activity 6 times a week. They might play 1 basketball game, train for basketball twice, do 1 swimming training session, do 2 physical education classes at school. So they're doing a lot of exercise. They're doing more than they're recommended enough. They're very fit, but you ask them to hold a plank and they can't do it for 10 seconds. They're struggling by the 4th sit-up. They just don't have that core strength, because apart from when they're in their structured activity time, they're not generally moving or engaging the basic functional muscles that we have and that we're designed to use all the time. So as far as core training for young athletes, I think it's extremely important. We actually incorporate some element of core training. And when I say core, I mean your whole foundation of strength. So your glutes, your hips, stomach, back and shoulders, not just your stomach muscles, which is what people tend to think when people say core training. So, with all of our junior programs that we run, whether that's our active Skills for Life fitness sessions or our junior run clubs or junior triathlon programs or our swimming squads, we try and incorporate some element of core and strength training. So to give you an example, in the pool, we do a lot of jump outs where they have to use, their shoulder strength to actually push out of the pool. We do a lot of dolphin kick on our backs, which works their stomach muscles, and a whole range of other things. Part of our warm-up circuit for our run club, we do lunges, we do squats, we do standing long jumps, we do a whole range of things just to engage those strength muscles. And we actually run some specific classes which do focus on core and functional strength training, just using body weight. So as I said, once you've got the movement patterns and the mobility right, then you can add the stability and the core training, then you add the weights. Our core foundation sessions, we purely just use body weight activities like push-ups, lunges, V-holds, planks, sit-ups. All of that, so much can be done with these activities that are not dangerous, and you can do with 9-year-olds. It really isn't dangerous to do that in all. In fact, it's hugely beneficial for their activity, and if they're not doing that, often these days they're not doing it all. Because, schools these days don't have monkey bars because they remove them so they don't get sued if there's an incident on them. So, I don't think there's any issue at all with adding those body weight core exercises in junior sporting activities. In fact, I would encourage it in every session. In regards to weight training, junior athletes, and I've written a blog post on this in training young athletes' safety, bones grow quicker than their muscles and ligaments and tendons. So as far as weight training, a lot of their joints, they're not stable enough to actually support it. You can't put an age on it because everybody is at a different stage of development. So for instance, with me, I was fully grown at 12. Everyone will laugh who actually knows me in real life because I barely stand at 5 foot tall. So fully grown at 5'1" when I was 12 years old. So at 15, I was developed and mature enough to start lifting weights. Under a supervised program, I would have been fine. Girls generally grow quicker than boys. So if you're dealing with a team of, say, 8 15-year-old rowers, boys and girls, you would have some athletes in there who would be ready for weight training and some who definitely wouldn't be. They'd be in the middle of a growth spurt. They'd be about to have one. And it would actually be quite dangerous. So my recommendation would be if you're working with junior athletes, you can go to town on the core and the body weight stuff. I would really exercise caution with using weights because they're all at different stages of development. And if you were going to conduct a weights program, I would only do one under the supervision of an exercise scientist or an exercise physiologist or a accredited strength and conditioning coach. They are the only 3 accreditations, I think, that have the capacity and the knowledge to be able to deal with junior athletes safely. Someone who has a personal training qualification, I don't believe has extensively gone into the area enough to be able to cater for a young athlete safely. Physical education teacher, I don't think they generally have that knowledge either. It depends on their personal background and what they've done with their own sporting career, but yeah, exercise scientist, an exercise physiologist, or an accredited strength and conditioning coach would be my 3 go-to people who could conduct these programs safely if you were to start using weights, and it would have to be very individualised to that specific person. So there's my recommendations. Work movement patterns first, then you can move to stability, then you can move to weight and sport-specific training. Any age can do mobility training. In fact, I'd encourage it. Any age could and should be doing core stability training. Again, I would really encourage it. As far as your weights, make sure it's under the supervision of the 3 accreditations I just gave you, and make sure it's individualised, and you should be fine. But no, I don't recommend group weight training for teenagers, as a group, not catering for those individual differences. So there you go. Feel free to send through any questions you like to me personally at my email, michelle@hemleys.com.au, or post your question with the hashtag AskTeamHemleyTV on our Twitter, Instagram or Facebook feeds, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. Bye.